Well, we're back. Myself, Dawn, we're going to do the Raw and Smackdown Week in Review. And we haven't done Raw or Smackdown in 2 weeks because of her health, but she's back. She's home. Kind of glad. Makes it a lot easier. So we are going to be doing Raw first and then Smackdown after, all in one shot instead of doing two separate ones. And we'll put it out tonight. Hopefully it won't take too long. So, in the beginning, we have here Liv Morgan starts off Raw, talks about how she hurt Rhea Ripley and sent Becky into early retirement. I don't feel that Becky's deciding to go into early retirement. I just think she wants to spend more time with her daughter and help her husband get better. Is that what
she wants to spend more time with her daughter
and help Seth get better? Means he's suffering from an injury.
I hate to see her go if that's the way it's going, but she's my favorite.
Yeah. And then Dominic comes out and Liv starts talking about how she was going to take everything from Rhea, including him. And that was basically the beginning and opening of the show. Then we go into the first match of the night. It was kind of weak. I would give it a C-. It was Ludwig Kaiser versus Sheamus. Kaiser gets the win. It was kind of a boring, drawn-out match, even though there was a lot of hard hitting, but it's only chops left and right. It kind of gets old. You can't only have so many chops in one match.
There's a lot.
And Kaiser gets the win. I gave it a 5 out of 10 because, like I said, it's not a great match. It was okay, but not great. Not good even. It was okay. Then we have Ilya talk to Ricochet. Ilya Dragunov was talking to Ricochet backstage. Speaking of which, at the time of this recording, Ricochet has already told and informed WWE that he is not going to be renewing his contract and that he is quitting WWE.
Another one I hate to see to go.
Yeah, but Ilya was talking to Ricochet about Braun Breaker, about how he thanked him for saving him from Braun Breaker and taking a spear for him. And it kind of led into a possible friendship that was developing between the two. But no. Then we had Dragon Lee versus Finn Balor. Another one, it wasn't a great match, but it was good. It wasn't just okay. It was better than okay. It was good. But Finn Balor got the win.
So.
But Finn Balor got the win. I gave it a 6 out of 10. After the match, Finn Balor, JD McDonough started attacking Dragon Lee. Ray came out with Braun Strowman. And they went after Finn and JD after the match. That was a good thing. Then we had the part where Damian ordered if Carlito wants to join Judgment Day, he has to take on Braun Strowman. Carlito's an old man these days. He ain't as young as he once was 20 years ago when he was okay of a wrestler. Now he's a much better wrestler. He's a smarter wrestler, but he's still not. He's not on the same level as a Rey Mysterio. He never will be. So we have that. Then we go to the next side here, which we have The Miz and Truth are talking backstage, and Miz tells Truth, or Truth says to Miz that he's obsessed with the Judgment Day when it's not quite that way, you know, how Truth was going with it was kind of just a joke of a thing, you know, how they do with R-Truth and Miz doing the comedy act. Then Sami Zayn is in the ring. And he's talking about Chad Gable, how he needs to stop blaming everybody else for his failures, saying how he needs to accept that he's the reason why all this stuff is going on, that it's all about Gable's the reason he keeps losing. He keeps losing focus on the matches. And that's kind of where that led to into where then Maxine Dupree and the rest of the Academy comes out with a message and a challenge for King of the Clash at the Castle. Sammy accepts, and he gets jumped by Chad Gable from behind. And somehow in the mix, he ends up getting helped out by Otis. Otis gets in the way and protects Sammy from Gable and Gable from Sammy. And the crowd starts chanting Otis, and that's how that led in. Then you had Braun Breaker talking to Adam Pearce, which led to a match between Ricochet and Braun Breaker. It was a great match because every time Ricochet's in the ring, it's going to be amazing. He's like a human highlight reel, and they call him that. It's because it's true. I've watched him since he was in his early years. I've watched him facing people like Ospreay, watched him facing Sabre Jr., and I watched him and Sabre do over an hour match together, and it came out to a draw because they couldn't come up with a winner. That's how good Ricochet really is. But Braun Breaker gets the win. I give the match a 7 out of 10 because it was an awesome match. But then Breaker attacks Ricochet, and Ilya comes out and breaks up the attack. Then we had Natty versus Kiana James. I give it a 4 out of 10 because Natty deserves to be she deserves to win more than she's been winning. Don't you feel Natty should win more? Yeah, you like Natty. You don't know Kiana James. We're not familiar with NXT stars that are just coming in. I know a little bit about them, but it's not as a big deal for Kiana James to get the win right now. It's still early on the major, on the I keep wanting to think major leagues. Baseball, minor leagues, but like on the main roster, Kiana James doesn't deserve to get a win over they call her the BOAT, but she's truly a GOAT when it comes to women's wrestling. And then we move on to the next one, which then we have Carlito versus Strowman. Of course, Strowman wins. It was a one-sided match, really. I mean, Strowman was going to win no matter what. And Judgment Day attacked Strowman after the match and all that. I gave the match a 5 out of 10. It was a great, great match, but it wasn't on the higher level. I mean, it's a Braun Strowman match. Every match he's in turns into a squash match unless he faces somebody bigger. But, yeah, I gave it a 5 out of 10 only for the fact that it's Strowman versus Carlito and not like Strowman versus Priest. It would have got a 7 if it was Priest and not Carlito. Then we had the women's tag team match with Cargill and Belair versus Stark and Baszler. It was a title match. After the match, or before the end of the match, because nobody actually won the match, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn come out and attack the champs, and then it becomes a 4-on-2. And because of that, I gave it a 5 out of 10. If it wasn't for the attack after the match, it probably would have been a 6 out of 10. Really was. Damian Priest then comes out to talk in the ring. He's talking about Ray, and McIntyre comes out. McIntyre does his whole spiel about, CM Punk. And then he goes into how they're going to be facing each other in his home country. They're going to be in Scotland. They're going to be doing this in Scotland where he's going to have the home field advantage and the fans and his family there. And if this is the time where Damian Priest is going to lose the belt, this is where it has to happen. I don't see him losing it any other place, but I do see him losing it at this point. It would be a much bigger match at this point. But, yeah. Then we have Jey Uso comes out through the crowd and getting everybody yeet, 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 and that was just having a good old time. Then we had Lyra Valkyrie talking about how Becky was like a big inspiration to her and everything else. And then we had the next match, which was New Day versus AOP, right? The Authors of Pain. AOP gets the win over the New Day. AOP, a tag team that was here years ago that couldn't win to save their life on the main roster under Vince McMahon, are now finally getting their just desserts because of Paul Levesque. AOP got the win, and that's the best thing that could have happened for their careers at this point, is having Paul Levesque being in charge. Because otherwise, AOP would not have been brought back and would not have been able to move forward. I find AOP is a better tag team this time around. New Day, they're at the end of their careers as a tag team, I think. I think it's about time they start thinking about breaking up, because they don't have their third member. It doesn't look like Big E will ever be able to wrestle again.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, his broken neck has been a big issue, and it's becoming a bigger issue. They were all great wrestlers together. Kofi was great by himself. But unfortunately, with Big E being on the shelf probably permanently, it doesn't look like New Day's ever going to be New Day again. Then we had Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. They basically weaseled their way into getting a tag team title match at Clash of the Castle. Then we go to the final thing of the night, where we have Damian Priest versus Rey Mysterio. During the match, Judgment Day intervened and the LWO comes out. It becomes a big hoo-ha-ha beat-em-up thing. McIntyre comes out, Claymore's Balor, and then Priest does the South of Heaven on McIntyre through the announce table, and that was the end of the show. So that was the end of Raw. So that's... Raw is now done with that. And then on SmackDown, they take a look back. Yeah.
Question.
Okay.
What does everybody think about Liv and Dominic's story?
That's a good, yeah.
Where it's going.
Yeah, what is what everybody feels is going to lead into this Liv Morgan, Dominic, and Rhea Ripley coming back at SummerSlam type of deal? What do you think is going to lead into that going forward?
I see it going together, that they're going to get together.
Even though Dominic's married to his high school sweetheart, and Rhea Ripley is dating Buddy Matthews from AEW, and then you got Liv Morgan, who's dating Bo Dallas. So I don't know how you're going to work all that together either. So that's a double triangle there that nobody needs to get involved in. Then we move on to SmackDown. And with SmackDown, they look back at last week where AJ Styles swerved everybody by acting like he's going to retire and attacks Cody Rhodes. So that's how they start off the show, and then out comes the Bloodline. And during the whole segment, we had Solo Sikoa tells Paul Heyman he should apologize to Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. I don't know. I mean, what's going to happen when Roman Reigns ever comes back? He should be coming back soon. But if he comes back, I see him being back with Jimmy and possibly working their way and getting Jay to join back in to bring the three originals to go against Solo, Tama Tonga, and Tonga Loa. I can see that for Battle for It and finally end the Bloodline, because it's getting old, like the NWO got old towards the end of the 90s.
Very possible.
Yeah, so I don't know how it's all going to work out, but that's how I see it leading into. Then we had a non-title match with Cargill and Belair versus Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae. Cargill and Belair get the win, but after the match, we had Alba and Dawn come out with Baszler and Stark, and they beat up on Cargill and Belair after the match. They didn't get much to see of the match because there was constant, like, two commercial breaks during the match. So you didn't get to see much of the match. You had to watch the picture-in-picture to even know what the hell happened in the match. So it's not like a whole lot going on there, but the ending is where they led into that. Then they show Cody Rhodes on the loading dock talking with Nick Aldis, where he tells him not to get into a fight on the loading dock with AJ. I don't get why they're trying a different thing where they're trying not to have people jumping each other, where on Raw, that's all they do is jump each other.
Oh, every time.
Raw is like jump central, and SmackDown's like, don't jump. Don't be making no jumps on people. But yet in the match prior to that, there was 4 people came in and jumped the champions. That don't make sense why you're going to tell one guy not to do it after he got his ass kicked last week. It just doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. Nick Aldis, no. Then they go into Apollo Crews, who gets jumped by Berto and Angel, members of the Fantasma del Legado, or Legado del Fantasma. Then they're talking to LA Knight, who's looking for Logan Paul. Carmelo Hayes pops in and says that, he don't deserve Logan Paul, blah, 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 blah.
Shove an apple in his mouth.
No, that would be, that's somebody completely different. That's Carlito, not Carmelo. 2 different people. But I get what you're saying, yeah, but I would say, yes, stick an apple in Carmelo's mouth, too, because he talks too much. But then eventually there is a match later in the night between Carmelo Hayes and LA Knight. Then we had Johnny Gargano with Ciampa in his corner versus Grayson Waller with Austin Theory in his corner. And Waller gets the win, but I would give it a 6 out of 10. The match was actually very well done. There was a good storyline in the match. It was a very powerful meaning behind the storyline. Granted, yes, Austin and Ciampa were beating each other up outside the ring, but it was a great match. I would give it higher, but there was the interference factor. So, yeah, I would say a 6 out of 10 only because of the interference factor. Then we go to the next one. Then we come into the LA Knight and Carmelo Hayes match. It's LA Knight and Carmelo Hayes. You can't go wrong with either of the two of them because both of them are great match machines. You can't say one's better than the other. LA Knight gets the win. I give it a 7 out of 10 because I give it that better than average match. Then we have Tiffany Stratton tries to talk with Nia Jax about becoming a team together. And somehow Michin gets involved and throws water in Nia Jax's face. I thought that was kind of funny when I saw that, when I looked back at it and saw it a couple times. Yeah, Michin direct hit, all right? Like, it was like, boom, splash. It was a good one. And then we had a video with Bayley and Niven, and Bayley and them talking about their upcoming match at Clash of the Castle. Then we had Logan Paul sends a video about being at the Tetris Championships in LA. Yeah, exactly. You look at me like I'm nuts, but that's exactly what he did. He sent in a video of him at the Tetris Championships in LA. Like, what does Tetris have to do with WWE? You know what I'm saying? Then we had the main event, KO versus the Street Profits. KO and the Street Profits, all 3 of them versus the Bloodline 3. And it ends up becoming a DQ win for KO and the Street Profits because of a chair shot. It was just, it's exactly what you expect between KO and the Street Profits versus the Bloodline. A lot of fist flying, not a lot of wrestling going on. More punch and hit, punch, kicks, nothing really wrestling. It's going to be more of a street fight MMA style match than it is. But because of a chair shot, KO and Street Profits get the win by DQ. I give the match a 6 out of 7 only because for the style of match that it was exactly that. It was a C-level match. With that being said, that's the whole week in review for Raw and SmackDown this week. Anything you want to say?
No.
No? You pretty much...
Good.
Everything's pretty good, right? Everything's caught up? I will be doing my collision one tomorrow during the day. I never wrote it down yet and got it all worked out yet. I'm working on it, but I don't have it fully done yet. So tomorrow I'll put out the collision one. And with that being said, y'all have a good night. Remember, love one another. Peace.